I heard this on Dr. Laura a million years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And I think it's so key, and it really applies to this situation. When we are in a relationship, and certainly once we're married, it is our job, it's incumbent upon us to never do anything or say anything, whether our spouse, our partner is with us or not with us, that would cause them to feel insecure. Like my job is to, if I'm going out and I wear some cute outfit that Dan says, oh, you look beautiful tonight, and we're at a fancy restaurant, I'm not walking to the restroom trying to like strut my stuff. I know that my husband just told me I look beautiful. Other men in the restaurant might think that, but it's my job to just modestly walk to the restroom because I'm not ever trying to get attention from anyone other than my husband. That's how you protect the vows of your marriage. Elliott, we had a question come in from a listener, and I promised her we would address it today on the program. She had an initial question, and then I asked her for some backstory just to make sure that we could give her a very thorough response. So we'll just read the initial question, and then we know the backstory, so that will obviously be part of the context that we use for our response. So here goes. I'm 34, dating a 44-year-old man who rents out a room to a cutie 21-year-old for a very fair price, and sometimes he goes out with her and her friends and buys their drinks. I'm not sure how I feel about that. He believes it's socially acceptable, as I disagree and see it as predatory, but I also want to be understanding, and I'm unsure if I'm just being insecure and unreasonable about the situation.
It sounds like at least one important perspective right off the bat is that the relationship started with one understanding and now it's moved into another. So sometimes the way they start isn't the way they move in the middle. And so now there's all this new information she knows about this gentleman that is making her question. And that's okay. That's part of life. That's part of growing and developing into a relationship. You have to understand each other deeper, and you're going to get broader context and broader understanding. And so those are a lot of scenarios there. First of all, originally the first connection talked about that he's renting to someone, not that she was a roommate. That's a significant different perspective right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And so if he is going to commit to the question asker who sent it to us, then that roommate situation is not, healthy and wise long-term by any stretch of the imagination, let alone the whole context of hanging out with them, going to get drinks, paying for their food, paying for their alcohol, being in the same Ubers with them. It's just not healthy or wise in a broader sense. So those are my first initial perspective pieces, Karin, before we dive in further about what's right, what's wrong, how do you adjust the power, how do you commentate. It's just perspectives are different now than when she started. And so that makes you want to question, understand, and make some decisions.
Well, and that's what dating is. It's gathering information. And like you said, I'm a little irritated that, like you said, it was, I have a roommate, gender undisclosed, age undisclosed. The fact that I'm taking her and her girlfriends out and being sugar daddy to everybody, undisclosed. Then again, it's not that on the first date we say everything that's going on in our life. So it's not the fact that he withheld some information. It's just, this is the kind of information that if it were all copacetic, I think it would have been just, oh yeah, I rent a room to a 21-year-old girl and
I'm old enough to be her father.
And then I'm like, well, how did he find this girl? Was this like a Craigslist ad or something like?
Could be a wide variety, yeah.
It just, this all gets just a little murky. It'd be different. Like you said, it's my friend's kid. That might be a little bit more understandable, although also could get weird. It's just, I can understand. First, I just want to validate our listener for feeling weird about it. And I understand and uncomfortable and even threatened a little bit. If she's trying to build something, as she mentioned, he is expressing what he is saying is that he wants to build a life, a mature Christian-based romantic relationship with her. But as we know, cliche of all cliches, but so true, his actions aren't demonstrating that. And she gives the carve out that, hey, he was lonely for a while. Now I'm in his life. I'm thinking, yeah, he was lonely for a while. He went and played pool a lot and he went and had beers at the bar. That's not the worst thing in the world. But now you have a girlfriend. So now it's time to take away that single man lifestyle and move toward a couple lifestyle. And it sounds like he doesn't want to let go of some of the other ways of behaving. And that's even eliminating the 21-year-old cutie out of this scenario. We are thrilled to announce our partnership with Authentixx Athletic Apparel, spelled with 2 X's at the end because it's our XX chromosomes that make us female. And contrary to current belief, no amount of hormones, no number of surgeries can change that. And no female athlete should have to compete against men. But at the moment, this is exactly what's happening in both amateur and professional sports. It's not fair, nor is it safe. Wearing Authentixx lets us take a stand to support and protect female athletes. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say it. We're protecting the future of womanhood. Authentixx gives 10% of all sales to the Independent Women's Forum, the nonprofit which fights for women's causes, including our right to our own spaces and our right to compete against other women and only other women. Check out Authentixx.com and use promo code LOVELIFE for 10% off your purchase. That's Authentixx.com, AUTHENTIXX.com, and use promo code LOVELIFE, all one word, for 10% off your purchase.
Yeah, so based on what you're saying, what I'm saying, we're just trying to help the listener who asked the question. We appreciate the question. She has to reevaluate now based on the new information, the new gathering, the new movements into the dating. And now it's a values clarification, right? Her values are saying very clearly to herself, if we're going to try to build a committed relationship, therefore has to be some adjustments to both of our sides, how we spend our time, who we spend it with, how we're both feeling about that. You're not trying to control each other. That's not the point at all. And men who have had a lot of freedom and autonomy often reject any sense of accountability. Like, don't tell me who I hang out with, who I can't hang out with. When I'm like, well, how would you feel if she was hanging out with really handsome young men and going to bars and getting so wasted she doesn't even remember where her phone is? And right, it's if you put the context differently, it automatically makes a difference. But rather than her judging or getting angry or attacking him, it's just time to sit down and have the conversation. Here's where I'm comfortable. Here's where I'm secure. And here's what I expect. Right? Just lay some expectations out, and you don't have to say, ultimatum, like you stop talking to that girl and kick her out of the house automatically, or I'm done. I mean, you can do that if you want. It doesn't tend to work well. He'll likely choose them over you. And even if he does choose you, he's going to be angry, bitter, and resentful. And so it's not a healthy way to do it. But whatever she's comfortable and okay with has to be clearly asked for, expected, understood, walked through, come to some agreements if you can. Because you and I on paper would automatically say, this isn't tenable long term. Not if he's willing to make some significant sacrifices and adjustments. And we don't know what hers are. There's probably plenty on her end as well. So you're not like, guys tend to like, well, you got to accept me as I am. Well, not if you're doing behaviors that say you're a player as a sugar daddy. And we're saying that lightly, but there is some references there that make sense rather than building a committed relationship with me. And there's an age gap there too. So there's a 10-year age gap there as well, which I'm not anti, but that matters also in the relationship and equitable position. Will he ever give her the same status and level as he is because he's so much older?
And him being 44, he's had many years to be that bachelor running around town, living that life. If he truly did want to build this with her, now this woman has showed up in his life with the same values, want the same things, and we're not seeing him adjust his life to demonstrate and to demonstrate to himself and to her and to anyone, oh, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Now I can leave that other lifestyle behind. And I get it. Like, I get what you're saying. It's tricky in the sense that she doesn't want to throw a bunch of ultimatums around, but here's the other piece. If she doesn't start to have these conversations, she's going to be, at that point, he didn't bait and switch. He showed her who he was. And if she moves forward, then she can't be mad if in 5 years, he's still got the 21-year-old, she'll be 26 then, still because she signed up for it. We have to be really careful as we gather this information in the dating process. If we don't start to have the conversations you're talking about, then we are co-signing on it. We're saying, okay, that's cool with me. And it's not cool. And I would never be cool with that. No, who wants that?
And the law of least interest and the law of power here, is making her feel insecure and unstable, though she's not reacting in ways that are unhealthy. She's actually being healthy and bringing forward appropriate accountability measures and expectations. But when a man or a woman receives them and then turns them on us, then we start to question, like, am I just an anxious potential date here, or our potential girlfriend or our fiance, or whatever the scenario would be? And that's when we know it's not healthy again. And so, right, if she's going to build and say, well, I'm ready to take the next step towards further commitment, then these basic measures, who he hangs out with and where he goes and what he's doing, have to be on the table. And if he's unwilling to adjust at all, then you got to make the hard decision and just say, well, we had some good times together. I'm just not going to move forward. Right. And that's sad. It's hard. If there's a lot of other great connection, that's really sad.
It's very hard.
But it sounds like she really wants marriage and children.
Yeah.
That sounded pretty clear in her response to us. So therefore, with him being 44, that would tend to be decently quick without being ridiculously rushing. Not that men can't father children into their late 50s even, but as far as like activity engagement with children, I would wonder if he really even wants kids. That would be a question. I don't know if she's talked to him about that yet, and if that's part of his plan or desire, because you hate to get further along, go through this issue, and then he goes, oh, by the way, I'm really not up for the kids thing.
Well, and it's, again, it goes back to what I said a moment ago. What we're seeing is not, his behaviors are not matching what he's saying.
At least not the patterns we hear.
Not currently.
Yeah. So they are tricky, but she is going to end up having to be the one.
I know, which is annoying.
Which is a pain in the butt to initiate a little bit of these conversations.
Right, because I'm disappointed that he hasn't already made these moves on his own. Like, I'm dating a woman I think I could be serious with. So you know what? The 21-year-old, she's going to have to find a new place to live. And that.
Yeah, and maybe her lease has another 3 months. Fine, but in that movement,
a plan in place. And it's annoying that she has to be the one. And then I start thinking, well, if he's fine with the way things are right now. In Absolutely. A sense, right there, that's your answer.
It is.
But I'm not saying she shouldn't have the conversation, because we want to give him the opportunity to kind of wake up, dude.
And for her to practice appropriate intimacy building conversations. Because I work with a ton of women, including one this morning, that wishes they would have had those conversations long before the affairs and everything else happened that led to the erosion of the marriage and the family. And so, yes, the husband did the terrible behavior, but the wife is saying, you know what? I didn't bring things up. I wasn't open. I wasn't honest. I wasn't direct. And I just let them. I accepted them because everything else was decent. I accepted them and let them slowly erode. So we're not blaming her at all, but she does have some responsibility. She reached out to us. She's wanting to address the issue, and now she needs to address him. And if it doesn't go well and he turns it and twists it, then, like you said, she has her answer, and then you just have to have the tough decision to remove yourself.
Right. And just to fully address what she's presenting with us, it does sound at the end there, she said that she had already talked to him, and he felt
he wasn't making any.
Don't you remember? It was some, let me just double check to make sure we're addressing exactly her question.
And let me throw one other point in while I'm thinking about it.
Go ahead.
So in light of our masculinity series, and often I'm tougher on the men, you're tougher on the women, which is appropriate based on our own gender. But this is a case where I'm telling this man, grow up. And if she plays in this and he wants to have words with me, come on, go ahead and give me a call or email. Just grow up and take some responsibility for your actions. What you're doing is not appropriate. It's not sinfully wicked wrong, but it's not appropriate to hang out with these 21-year-olds and pay for their drinks and get wasted and all these things. The Bible's very clear about alcohol and moderation is fine. Getting drunk ever is not appropriate. It's sinful. And when you can't even find your phone and things, he's acting immature. He's acting irresponsible. Sounds like he's been successful. Sounds like he's got plenty of money and has some business savvy. And all those things are wonderful. But if you are going to really be a leader, lead everywhere. And you have a woman that sounds quality and has an opportunity for you to build this into something significant.
She listens to this podcast, so she's quality, honey.
Absolutely. We know that. And she's brought these things forward, and you're pretty much dismissing them or being defensive.
Yeah.
Or posturing or maneuvering. And I teach that in the conferences I do, and you've probably been there with me when I've said about it. We have to receive each other in order to learn and be heard and understood in order to make change, not when we immediately get defensive. We immediately block. Right. We immediately we know then that the truth was there because we're afraid of it and we're not willing to step up to it. And he's not willing to say, you're right, honey. Give me a little bit of time. Let me do this here with this situation. Let me do this with this one and move forward. Doesn't mean he has to instantaneously not talk to any of his friends anymore and things of that nature, or never go to those bars anymore. Although I certainly question a bikini hut as any need for a regular occurrence for a 44-year-old man who loves the Lord and wants to build a relationship with a woman.
And has a girlfriend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm gonna throw this in, and then I'm gonna just get to the very tail end of her question because I want to make sure that we give the brass tacks as we wrap it up. I heard this on Dr. Laura a million years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And I think it's so key, and it really applies to this situation. When we are in a relationship, and certainly once we're married, it is our job. It's incumbent upon us to never do anything or say anything, whether our spouse, our partner is with us or not with us, that would cause them to feel insecure. Like, my job is to, if I'm going out and I wear some cute outfit that Dan says, oh, you look beautiful tonight, and we're at a fancy restaurant, I'm not walking to the restroom trying to like strut my stuff. I know that my husband just told me I look beautiful. Other men in the restaurant might think that, but it's my job to just modestly walk to the restroom because I'm not ever trying to get attention from anyone other than my husband. That's how you protect the vows of your marriage. And this is, I'm frustrated because this guy's not doing that. He is actively being okay making her feel insecure. He's saying it's okay that you feel insecure because you're trying to change me. And I just, to get exactly what he says, she said, she did ask him to not go out with the roommate anymore and her friends because it makes her feel uncomfortable. And she said, if we're going to continue dating, I'm asking you to stop that. And his reply was that he wants to help me feel good about the situation, but he thinks it's unreasonable to not go out drinking with the roommate. And he feels like I'm telling him who he can and can't hang out with.
Yeah, you're not telling him. You're advising the situation based on what makes me feel loved, appreciated, affirmed, and accepted as a woman. And I'm telling you, these things don't do that. And you're saying, just deal with it. And then again, we say that's the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're asking her to have this conversation, and she's telling us she already had the conversation, Elliott. So do we have one final?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think you do. Just for her benefit as she's growing. And again, it's sad because there sounds like there's probably a lot of good connection with him, or she wouldn't have taken the time to write us.
Right.
So that is really difficult. And you don't have to make an ultimatum. Very rarely works with men, especially this kind of personality. But it's literally, it's just revisiting and say, honey, I talked to you about this. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel very insecure that I'm not enough, that you have these outside interests that are always going to be in the way of us building a relationship. It's kind of like the name of the show, the one with Mark Cuban and everybody. Shark Tank. It's kind of like Shark Tank. It's like, therefore I'm out. it's like I've seen the behavior. I heard it. I've known the situation. And I don't think she necessarily has to say, well, if you're willing now to change instead, because now you're having a weaker position anyway, because you stated your values, you stated your clarification. He clearly said, you're being controlling. It's unfair. It's not right. And now she's so frustrated. She's writing us. I think the response of that next conversation is simply saying, I've decided with some counsel and some prayer and some time that this is not going to work for me. So thank you.
So you're saying this next conversation is not a request again. I just want to get real granular. Like, what are we actually recommending?
If she already did, again, I think she's already frustrated. And you helped remind me of that just 20 seconds ago, that she wrote the second piece saying that she already did the values clarification. This is my heart and soul disclosure request.
Expectation.
And he turned it on her.
As you know, we've been partnering with the Wellness Company for several months now. And personally, as someone who sadly no longer trusts the vast majority of medical professionals, I am so happy to be able to share the Wellness Company's array of products with the Love and Life community. Dan and I just purchased the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit, which includes vital medications with proven safety profiles like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and Z-Pak. The kit also includes a comprehensive guidebook researched and written by the company's chief medical board, including esteemed doctors who stood up to COVID tyranny, by the way, which is exactly why they've earned our trust. Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and Dr. Paul Alexander, just to name a few. Head over to twc.health/lovelife and enter promo code LOVELIFE, all one word, for 15% off your order. That's twc.health/lovelife and promo code LOVELIFE for 15% off your order. We can take charge of our health, and the Wellness Company is here to help us do it. So the other thing I wanted, just because I want to get like real deep here, and I think it was smart. You said we used I statements in this conversation, which are very, that's healthy and mature communication. Not to attack him. You're doing this, but as you said, you modeled with, it makes me feel insecure. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It's not the kind of behavior I want to have in a partnership moving forward. But then I feel like he's already told her, you're trying to tell me who I can and can't hang out with. Time. I think he could then turn it and you're just insecure. It's your issue. See,
therefore I'm insecure and I'm out.
Okay.
Right. Because he's going to not validate you and affirm you as a person. Right. And make sure, gosh, babe, I'm so sorry. Right. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't make you feel insecure, uncomfortable. You are the person I want to build my life with. I can certainly only go to places like that with you. And if we both agree to go there together, I do not need to hang out with other women, whether they're pretty, ugly, or anywhere in between. There's no reason to hang out with a bunch of other single women and then throwing alcohol in there.
And trying to be like the big daddy.
There's just no reason for that.
There's something he's getting from that's making him feel like he's big daddy. And again, there's the age difference, and he's choosing to, even as a romantic partner, she's 10 years younger, as you pointed out. So he may have this kind of thing that he's overcompensating for some own insecurities, that he wants to hang out with people who are younger because it makes him feel good. Who knows? We could psychoanalyze this for another 6 hours, but you're now saying this second conversation is going to be more matter of fact. And this is the kind of dynamics that I don't see as being healthy for the relationship that I'm looking for.
Yep.
And so it's just not working for me. And then you walk away, and that's so hard. And
it is.
Our listeners know at 34, I called off an engagement for different reasons, but I know what it's like to be 34 and think that you're moving toward permanency and the life that you've dreamed of, and the husband and the picket fence and the kids and the dog, cats also, please. And so I just say that we're trying to be very matter of fact to give you some brass tacks.
Yeah. Can't compromise your soul. Can't compromise yourself. And
you can't
negotiate. You can't negotiate values on your own. Does that make sense? Like, if you're going to negotiate a little piece of values, what it looks like for friendship, what it looks like for fidelity, those kind of things, you have to do it in a conversation where it's equal and you're both sharing and understanding. Going, oh, okay, well, I understand you have really good friends there now at that bar where you play pool. I'd be glad to go with you on occasion.
Yeah.
But could you please bring me with you? So now I'm into the context of relationships. That rather than her saying, you can't ever go to that bar again, you can't ever talk to those people again, right? That would be a negotiation of values, but you have to do that together. You can't do it by yourself. And so he's basically saying, my values are, those are my homies. That's my bikini bar. There's some really good looking women there I really don't want to stop looking at. So therefore, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm not going to connect with you on your values. And that's why you and I are saying clearly to this young woman that despite the pain, the risk, the fear, the vulnerability, she's going to need to move on and look for that next man who might have a lot of similar qualities and characteristics, but is really mature enough and intentional enough to cement with her on our value clarifications and our movements to build appropriately in a dating relationship towards the commitment or towards, we might love each other, but it's not best to get married. And you and I are saying they're on stage 2 and he's not showing anything to us based on her writing that says stage 3 is ready.
Yeah. And you
don't want to just wait. You just don't want to wait for like a decade.
No, because she's gathering information, and that's what dating is. And it always is hard because sometimes we get information when we're several months or several years in even, and we go, oh, well, that is the deal breaker.
Yeah.
And
once you know it, you know it, and you can't.
And if you keep coasting along,
swallow it.
Then you are, like we said earlier, if you keep coasting along, then you are complicit in that. Yeah. And then like you said, people oftentimes are complicit. And then years later, they're going, I'm not okay with this. Never was, but I wanted to get married, or I wanted to, clock was ticking, all those reasons that many people, me included, almost marry the wrong person sometimes. So we have to just own that. So we want to thank her for the question and hope that this has been helpful. You guys send questions our way. We like to give the in-depth. The more information you can give us, the more like this listener gave us a lot of good content, so we could really try to do the best, having not met any of the individuals involved. So thank you for that question. We hope it's helpful even to someone who's not in that exact scenario.
Can I give one more response to her?
Yeah.
I know you were doing a good wrap up there.
I was wrapping up.
You did good. You were doing well. If she has this conversation in the manner we're suggesting, to be very direct and deterministic about, it's been clear enough to me in these last 3 weeks or whatever that we're at a value impasse and I'm going to need to step aside. If he then goes for the hard sell back, which is very common for a personality like this, it sounds like, that he's good with people, he knows how to soft manipulate or coerce, she cannot give in on the spot. It'll eradicate what small amount of power and respect she has in the relationship. If she wants to earn this guy's respect and consider it again, maybe with him in 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months, a year, she has to hold her ground there and not allow that sell to woo her back in. Because he already made his points clear. When he felt the relationship was secure, he made his points clear. Don't tell me who to go out with. Don't try to control me. I'm sorry you have some anxiety issues or some mental health issues that makes you feel insecure, that I'm out whining and dining beautiful 21-year-olds in bikinis. Why should that bother you? What's your problem? You don't feel beautiful enough? Right. He's obviously turned it on her already. So to take him back because she held her boundary would eradicate future boundaries and lessen any potential for power. So it'll be hard. And she needs to actually even stop that conversation. If he keeps going and going and going, say, I'm glad you're concerned. I'm glad you're sorry, but I need to be done. And if she wants to say something like, I'll be glad to have a conversation with you in 3 months. If you're interested in something, then fine. But you can't do the waffling and you can't do, well, let me sleep on it. And then you call the next day immediately and you're right back in. And men in particular do not change that quickly.
Unless it's a reactionary change. Like,
rare.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Like,
I'm going to lose her now. I have no shot.
Right,
now I'll never go there again. And it's not
based
sincere.
on
its soul. It's not based on its core. Yeah.
It's just a quick fix to get things back. And you mentioned power, which we have an entire episode, and we talk about power a lot because it's it's always at work. Even if we don't want to talk about it, it doesn't seem romantic. It's always at work. So this is him telling her, you're trying to control me. That's him trying to take the power. This is her saying, this is not working for me. That's taking power. Taking power is not even it's asserting power.
Asserting her position, her place.
There you go. That's a nice euphemism, but it's power, really. We're talking about power. But no, we're talking about, and knowing who she is, how she deserves to be treated. And that's also communicating her own worth. And what's the Dr. Phil? We teach people how to treat us. And if she continues on without saying, I need to step away because these dynamics are not working for me, then she is teaching him how to treat her. And she's also teaching him how to treat her by saying, this isn't working. And then the ball's in his court, and who knows? But like you said, it's going to be 3-6 months down the road.
It's got to be time. Yeah, I can hear the sadness and the anger in her words to you, right? You hear the incongruence in her soul. And so we know that there was something up front that looked really good and strong, and they have some great connection. So we're not dismissing that. But you can have great connection with a checkout woman at Jewel, and you don't need to be in a long-term commitment with her, right? So I'm not trying to dismiss what she has, but connection can be built quickly and it can be removed and dismissed quickly. So she has to be careful just saying, well, we had something. Well, you did. But he's not saying, I want that something to be the same way for you and me the rest of the way. I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want my life to be exactly how I want it to be. And yet keep you on the side content and happy when she's not.
Yeah. That's hard. You threw me back to some prior relationships.
It's hard. It's very difficult.
It's hard because there can be so much good stuff. I did a post years ago. It said, breakups are always hardest when the relationship was good enough or something like that, where there was so much good stuff. Oh, almost right. That's why I said breakups are hardest when the relationship was almost right.
Almost, that's very good.
90%, that's hard.
It is.
But 90% doesn't cut it to go through life with all the challenges that life brings. But Elliott, let's pray for this woman in this relationship and the decisions she needs to make. And we gave her about a half hour of consultation. So again, others bring questions your way. It's great for us to have an opportunity to really meet you where you are and what's going on in your world. And we're happy to do that because we've got the content we want to share, but we also want to make sure we are connecting with the concerns that are most relevant to you.
Amen. Lord, we thank you for this time just to discuss this precious daughter of yours, her romantic interest in a man who obviously has lots of good qualities and characteristics, but is at this point unwilling to negotiate his values and recognize some of the inappropriate behaviors and the stubbornness and the arrogance, Lord, not to work with her on how to live out these values now as a committed man to one woman and to build that towards potential marriage and family as was stated. So we're asking for clarity and wisdom, discernment, that she would trust her instincts and be clear and assertive in her communication, even when it's going to be difficult, and to hold her ground, Lord, and stand firm, and ultimately to trust you, God, to bring the right man at the right time. And sometimes that takes time, and that's hard. So, Lord, you know the desires of her heart. You know the situation. Give her the power, the courage, the strength, the conviction she needs to be true to self, congruent to self, mind, body, spirit, and heart. And we pray for this man, Lord, to match, as Karin said, to match his stated goals with his behavior so they are congruent. And he will, Lord, if this is what he also wants, he will then be prepared to be a wonderful husband and potential father in his future as well. So thank you for this time, Lord. Amen.